This case truly shows the impotence and pointlessness of international law. Modern Israel declared its independence in 1948, following a resolution of the UN General Assembly. It was immediately attacked by various Arab states, but withstood those attacks, and in 1949 a peace treaty formalised the boundary between Israel and Palestine. In 1967, Egypt massed its troops for an invasion of Israel, but Israel struck first, defeating the attackers and occupying the west bank of the Jordan River, the Gaza Strip, East Jerusalem, and the Sinai Peninsula. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinian refugees fled. In the 50 years since, the region has seldom seen peace. Various Palestinian groups, such as Hamas and the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, have conducted attacks on Israel, including rocket launches and suicide bombings. Israel has responded with military force and also permitted thousands of civilians to settle in Palestinian areas, especially around Jerusalem. Ostensibly to protect its citizens, Israel commenced building a wall between itself and the occupied Palestinian territories. The wall deviated into Palestinian territory, sometimes by considerable distances, to protect Israeli settlers, and also to take strategic positions against Palestinian communities. The result was that considerable Palestinian land was lost, including important agricultural lands. Palestinian communities were sometimes cut off from the rest of the occupied territories. The United Nations General Assembly referred a question to the International Court of Justice, asking, what are the legal consequences arising from the construction of the wall being built by Israel, the occupied power in the occupied Palestinian territory? The recitals to the question run for pages and make it clear that the General Assembly was not interested in hearing any justification of the Israeli position. The court duly found that the wall was unlawful as between nations and that it infringed on the civil liberties of the Palestinians. They ordered Israel to terminate its breaches of international law, cease forthwith the works of construction on the wall being built in the occupied Palestinian territory, and make reparation for all damage caused by the construction of the wall in the occupied Palestinian territory. But international law is meaningless. Israel ignored the UN and completed the wall in 2014. The suicide attacks on Israelis substantially diminished, the dispossessed Palestinians remain dispossessed, and peace is as far away as ever. The whole exercise, sadly, was pointless, because international law is unenforceable and not really law at all.